What if everything you learned about how our world was formed is wrong? We're told the continents drifted apart slowly, over millions of years. But today, we're diving into a wild theory that says it all happened in a single day.
Right, so the standard story, the one in all the textbooks, says continents drift about as fast as your fingernails grow. But this idea? It just throws that whole concept right out the window. It suggests that the ancient supercontinent Pangea was violently shattered in a geological instant.
To even begin to get your head around this, you have to picture the planet before the catastrophe. Think about it. A single giant landmass, an Earth with an almost perfectly upright axis. That means no seasons, no ice caps, just a stable, balmy world with a much richer atmosphere. A very, very different planet than the one we know. So what on Earth could shatter a world like that? The answer, according to this theory, didn't come from outer space. It came from deep within the planet itself. The main culprit, believe it or not, was our own moon. Back then, it was orbiting much, much closer to the Earth, and its gravity wasn't just pulling on the oceans, it was physically bending the planet's solid crust. You know, like when you bend a paperclip back and forth over and over, eventually it just snaps? That's what was happening to the Earth's crust for centuries. Now, all that constant flexing and bending generated an absolutely incredible amount of heat. And deep underground, all that heat was turning huge reservoirs of water into, well, planetary-scale pressure cookers. The water wasn't just boiling, it was becoming what's known as supercritical, a state of matter with truly explosive potential. So when the crust finally gave way, starting near what we now call Iceland, it wasn't a slow little crack. It was a shockwave that tore through solid granite at 3.5 kilometers a second. I mean, that's not just faster than a speeding bullet, it's hypersonic. At that speed, yeah, the crack literally unzipped the entire planet in just a little over 3 hours. A single catastrophic fracture, 65,000 kilometers long, wrapping all the way around the globe. And you have to understand, this wasn't like a volcano erupting. This was the entire planet's crust failing like a pressure vessel that just burst. And what came screaming out of it was not just lava. No, what erupted was that supercritical water. It's this bizarre stuff that's kind of like a liquid and kind of like a gas. And it's so powerful it can literally dissolve solid rock. This hypersonic jet of water and molten earth blasted out from the crack with enough force to launch huge chunks of our own planet straight into space. So all that rock and water gets launched into orbit. What happens next? Well, as they say, what goes up must come down. And this is where the theory serves up a really startling new explanation for one of history's greatest mysteries. Okay, this is a huge one. You know the Chicxulub impactor, the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs? This theory says it wasn't an asteroid at all. It was a piece of Earth itself, blasted into a temporary orbit that came screaming back down a few weeks later. The killer, literally, came from inside the house. And if you look at this map of impact craters across the Canadian Shield, the theory argues this isn't random at all. It's the ballistic record. It's the bullseye, marking the trajectory where all that debris, launched from the North Atlantic, came crashing back down to Earth. This single event didn't just leave a few craters behind. Nope, it fundamentally remade the entire planet, from the way it spins in space to the very map of the world we know today.
This is just incredible. According to this theory, the very reason we have seasons, summer, winter, all of it, is because of this cataclysm. The blast was so unbelievably powerful that it acted like a rocket engine, literally knocking the Earth over on its side. As the new continents slid around and settled, our planet found its new balance at the 23.5-degree tilt we have today.
So how in the world did these giant landmasses move so fast? Simple. They didn't drift, they hydroplaned. They were riding on a cushion of water from that massive rupture, sliding across the globe in just a matter of months. And the world's great mountain ranges, the Rockies, the Himalayas, those are basically the crumple zones where the continents finally crashed into each other and ground to a halt.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, where's the proof? This all sounds pretty wild. Well, the theory argues the evidence isn't hidden at all. In fact, it's written all over the planet, right in its very chemistry. Let's talk about some of the world's most strategic resources. You know, the rare earth metals that power pretty much all of our modern technology? Geologists have always been a little puzzled by how they're distributed.
While this theory suggests a single, incredibly dramatic origin. These valuable minerals were dredged up from deep within the Earth's mantle by the rupture and then just sprayed out, all along that 65,000-kilometer-long wound that we now call the Mid-Oceanic Ridge.
So their location isn't random. It's a treasure map that points right back to the cataclysm.
And here's the thing. This is where it gets really scientific. It makes specific predictions that we can actually go out and test using samples and data we already have. It says, for example, that the famous iridium layer from the dinosaur extinction should have a chemical signature that matches Earth's mantle, not an asteroid. It predicts that drill cores from the mid-oceanic ridge should show signs of electrical scorching. And get this, that ice cores from Greenland should show a sudden dramatic spike in dust from the Earth's mantle. These aren't just stories, they're testable claims.
This completely reframes how we look at the geology of the ocean. The seafloor isn't just a quiet place where sediment slowly builds up. No, it's an active chemical fingerprint of the single most violent event in our planet's recent history.
But the theory doesn't just stop with Earth. It actually reaches all the way to the Moon. You know how the side of the Moon that faces us looks so different from the far side? The theory suggests that's because it was facing Earth during the rupture and got absolutely blasted with debris from our own planet.
And this is not just some wild guess. We have data from NASA that confirms the Moon's crust is strangely thinner on the side that's facing us. It's been a mystery for decades. This theory offers a potential solution. The Moon is still wearing the scars from Earth's most violent day.
And that right there is the huge, provocative question this theory leaves us with. It asks us to look at the giant rift in our ocean, the crater that killed the dinosaurs, the very face of the Moon, and even our four seasons, not as separate, unrelated things, but as interconnected clues to a single, world-shattering event that remade our planet in just a few hours.